Because let's face it, most of us hear energy crisis and think it's someone else's job. Too technical, too political, too far removed from our daily lives.
In Austria, we shouldn't be just solving Austria's problems, but also be bold and think about what can we do on a global scale, ideally.
How difficult can it be?
How difficult? How much can it change? And it really changes a lot, right? Personally, I feel like I'm learning so much, luckily, every day, that it really feels like the beginning, and I'm very aware that I and we as an organization don't know everything in this complex market.
You've been also called by the media by one of the boldest young voices in Europe's energy transition. Where did that mission start for you personally?
As a child, I spent a lot of time on a farm growing up in Styria. So I was there every summer from 6 years onwards for 2 or 3 months for the entire summer holiday. And this farmer, who my younger brother, my sister and I looked up very much to, and he explained to us how it makes so much more sense to use the energy that shines on Earth, so the sunlight, rather than pumping up dead dinosaurs and burning them. And that's just an example that really stick to my head throughout all the career steps, all the side jobs, everything I did. So this impact, being an entrepreneur, really forces you to learn 1,000 new things in a super short time.
Yeah, also about yourself.
Exactly. You can observe yourself in a lot of different situations in a very fast period of time. And that's an exciting journey.
Welcome to a new episode of Once Upon a Student, a place where we uncover the untold stories of extraordinary individuals. Today's guest is Elias Aruna, a name that might not yet headline climate conferences, but one every student who cares about the future should be looking out for. Because let's face it, most of us hear energy crisis and think it's someone else's job. Too technical, too political, too far removed from our daily lives. But what if the biggest transformation in Europe's energy future wasn't being driven by legacy utilities, but by a 25-year-old who used to study between Berlin train rails? Elias is the co-founder and CEO of Scale Energy, a climate tech startup building what might become Europe's largest decentralized battery network. And he's not just fighting climate change, he's re-engineering how industry powers itself, using forgotten grid connections and a zero-cost model. From working student to CEO, from case challenges to multi-million-dollar capital deals, Elias' story is much about urgency as it's about vision. And this is not just a story about batteries, don't worry. It's about ambition, responsibility, and building something bigger than yourself. Tune in, and Elias, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for the invite, Maciej, and thanks for the kind words in the introduction.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it to be here.
You're welcome. Your career is so fascinating. We studied at the same university, and now you're building such an amazing startup. And you've been also called by the media by one of the boldest young voices in Europe's energy transition. Where did that mission start for you personally?
That's a good question, and actually I think rethinking of what drew me into energy, it's actually a pretty early age. I got first fascinated by how everything in our world and in our universe is powered by the sun. Because as a child, I spent a lot of time on a farm growing up in Styria. So I was there every summer from 6 years onwards for 2 or 3 months for the entire summer holiday. And actually, I also did my tractor driver's license there. That was really a great time I had on this farm. And this farmer, who my younger brother, my sister and I looked up very much to, he installed a solar power plant or solar panels on the roof of the barn pretty early on. I think it was 2012, 2013, something like that. And he explained to us how it makes so much more sense to use the energy that shines on Earth, so the sunlight, rather than pumping up dead dinosaurs and burning them. And that's just an example that really stick to my head throughout all the career steps, all the side jobs, everything I did. So this impact you can generate by using renewable energy and just doing what makes sense because it's more efficient. I think that was my first touch point on this farm with renewables. And the farm also is, of course, a good thing to connect you with nature and be aware about the environment.
I agree, and it's amazing that. But what I wonder is, you studied later on business and economics. What was the shift between? I'm so fascinated. I'm so curious about solar energy and the renewable energy, and then studying business and economics.
Yeah, that's a turn actually I have to think about. I mean, as I said, I mean, I grew up in Vienna. I didn't grow up on the farm. I always had, like, in my school, I went to a pretty, I would say, bourgeois school in the inner city, and it was a public school, but a lot of the people around me were, through their families, already drawn to some kind of business thing, or lawyers and that kind of stuff. And I didn't have that background, but I had all kinds of side jobs actually next to high school already. Mm-hmm. And I knew from some of the side jobs, really, like waiting or even once being in a obi costume and handing out flyers, mm-hmm. that I want to do something where I also can be financially free and where I can have this business aspect in my life. Mm-hmm. And through that, I think I applied to real estate companies. I did an internship after high school, actually, at a real estate developer, and knew, okay, business in real estate, in finance, that's something that's interesting to me. And I need to go to WU to actually pursue this. And this drove the decision to do something where I can learn, as I thought back then, where I can learn entrepreneurial thinking and be surrounded with people that want to be in business. Mm-hmm. So this I think got me into business and economics, and I really like that I chose BBE because it was the first English bachelor program, like fully English. Mm-hmm. And that was a good spin for me personally to have this English and international environment early on.
And you seem like a pretty hard worker. I mean, you've told me that you, at the high school, you already tried out jobs. You did jobs on the side. And how did your life change when you started studying in a university? How did it feel at the beginning?
Well, I had to organize a lot more myself. Mm. I think I was always someone that just jumps into things. I'm not too structured in everything I do. So coming to university, that really changes. You're right. You need to plan ahead. You need to book your courses, to register for exams. Mm. So I think what university gave me was a kind of structure that helped me that also helps me now, and to have some urgency for some things that you want to push aside. So also doing the annoying stuff. And I think that's an important lesson, actually, because before it was more a lot of ideas, and actually WU requires from you that you structure yourself very well if you want to.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
And I was very similar. When I started out as 15 years old, I started out with YouTube back then. And I jumped from project to project to project. I had so many ideas, but my family also pointed out that I lacked the persistency to really finish projects and to push them through the end. And at the WU, it was like very scary at the beginning because you are put in a place where you like have to find yourself and find your way. And yeah, it's right. You, especially with the Prüfungswoche right away, if you start with this exam week right at the beginning, and you see all those crazy fast students sometimes around you that do 3 or 4 exams right in the first week. So I think it's important to take that structure from some of the people, but also to, of course, then be aware again that you are doing things in your own speed. And I think that's what's really great about WU. We have so much different impressions. I agree. And what made you care so deeply about decentralized energy then?
To answer this, I actually need to go to back basically a bit to this farm.
Okay.
Because what I saw there is this thought about efficient and low cost energy for themselves on a local level, and really to think about how can we get to this low cost thought on a systemic level. And coming from that and just reading into energy systems, reading books about it, listening to talks with the Austrian power grid CEO or like any inspiring person in that field, you come to realize that the energy system is really, really old, and the way it's operated. So this centralized approach with power generation plants that are centralized and just distribute the energy across the grid. That's really a very old system of, I don't know, 1850, 1900. And we still think in that way in some parts, even with solar power. If you have huge solar power plants and you need to think about how can we distribute the energy, it doesn't fully solve the problem, or not at all, that you need to have energy always at a certain point, at a certain time, and the limiting factor is this grid connection you need to send the energy through. So that's, I think, the problem set I came from, and where I thought, okay, how can we actually put battery or flexibility at the nodes where we have the biggest constraints and bottlenecks?
Okay, and help me feel the problem more. Who is suffering most because this doesn't exist yet?
So the entire system is suffering,
Okay.
because everybody pays high grid fees, right? If you look on your electricity bill, you see always a part for the grid and a part for the utility. And this cost is higher at the moment because we have decentralized structure. So if we had a really decentralized structure, you would need less grid lines, these towers you see when you ride through the landscape. So we would need less of them. So that's something all of us feel. And for our customer segment specifically, I mean, we build battery storage at industrial sites, and they have typically, especially in recent years, high energy costs and high grid connection costs because of this volatile market that they basically got thrown into. And if they implement the battery storage of ours, we help them to charge energy when the price is cheap and save the grid from blackout or from exaggerate too much power at a certain point in time, and at the same time have a benefit themselves. So for our customer group, it's industrial sites with pretty high energy costs typically.
That was amazing. And why are the governments like not really rethinking this system? You told me that it's working since nearly the 18th century. Why is it still so centralized?
I mean, 18th century, that's a bit early, yeah. So it's probably 1900 something. But I mean, there's a lot being done in the power grid, and there's a lot of initiatives in Germany. So we are based in Berlin. We work with the German Energy Agency and with the Federal Grid Agency in Germany, and also in Austria. We have good talks with the public bodies that take care of improving the power grid and building flexibility. But I think a main constraint is that in the energy market, you have some monopolists still. And that's the case in Austria, that's the case in Germany. And even with the liberalization of the energy market, you have some utilities and some grid operators that are really, really sitting on a gold mine. And I think there's a lot of lobbying interest to change the market, of course, from some sides. That's the innovative utilities sometimes. We also get to talk to them. Some are really great. But there's also those that want to hinder progress and that think in an old way.
Obviously, when you have the market power, you want to save it.
Exactly, and that's a fair thing to try, right? We are in a free economy, and I think a free market is the best system to be in. But still, that doesn't mean that if there's something better, you cannot change it. And I think we are at a point now where renewables and decentralized energy is just the better system. And it's not only us, right? It's a lot of companies working on this. So I think it's adapt or change for some players in the market. And the government increasingly also sees this, to come back to your question, and incentivizes flexibility, incentivizes the new players to build more. And I think that's where we actually see some good progress with the new government in Austria and also the new government in Germany.
Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing to hear as a customer, as a person who really wants to see progress in the future. And so walk me through, what are you actually building at Scale Energy? What is your solution for the problem you described?
So I don't want to get too technical because I don't know how technical our listeners at WU will be. I'm not an electrical engineer. I only did my WU bachelor. So for me, it was really a 2 years time to get into all these technicalities. And now I talk sometimes too complicated about it. But basically, you can think about it like this. You need storage in the power grid, and you can build that at centralized sites. So battery storage containers on one side, a lot of containers. Mm-hmm. That would take very long because you need to go through a lot of permitting processes. You would need to talk to the neighbors, right? And you have a lot of Umweltschutzverfahren and this kind of stuff. Okay. So what we do is we build these battery storage sites, but decentralized, where there's already a grid connection, so where you don't need to build new power lines. And typically, the optimal site for that is an industrial site, because it has a very strong power cable for all the industrial machines in there. Mm-hmm. But they don't use the full capacity of the cable most of the time. It's like a motorway, like an Autobahn, where you have 4 lanes. And twice a day you have rush hour, where all the lanes are full. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, 3 of the 4 lanes are free, basically, because at 11:30 in the morning, driving to Salzburg, from Vienna, there's probably not so much traffic. And we use, with our storage that we built at this industrial site, the free lanes that are not in use to charge from the power grid when the price is cheap. So, for example, at noon, when there's a lot of solar energy, we charge from the grid. Mm. And that's sometimes even at a negative price, so we get paid to do it. And at times where the price is high, so in the evening when everybody gets home, turns on their washing machine, we feed the electricity back in the other direction into the grid through the same power line.
It's amazing. It's like a brokerage system, but with energy.
Exactly. It's in the end, basically it's arbitrage trading. Yeah. There are some ways to stabilize it, right? You can fix the revenue if you hedge and that kind of stuff. So most of our projects, because we develop them for pretty conservative infrastructure investors, we find a way to fix the revenue and to make it stable and not volatile. Mm-hmm. But that's basically arbitrage trading, yeah.
Yeah, so there's many components your startup solution. I guess there's a very technical side of operations, but also, very mathematical, because you have to write algorithms, how to trade, when to sell, when to buy. So very complex solution, actually. Yeah.
It's a huge value chain, and luckily that part with the algorithm for trading we don't need to take care of fully. Okay. So there's some great players. An Austrian company called Inspired, led by Jürgen Meyerhoff, a great person, and they do, I think, the best product in this market, or one of the best products. There's also other great players like Entrix and other like startups in that space. But we try to work with all of them. And of course, there's also utilities providing some solutions to that market side of things. What we mostly care about is this technical component of project development and working with the industrial side, so getting data to improve our tech product. And then, the financial side of things, of finding the right investor, infrastructure funds, and giving them the right product. And that's also where my expertise, coming from the real estate development side and M&A basically world, comes into play mostly.
So let's paint a picture. Let's say there is a company in Stuttgart who is very energy consuming, and so your solution helps them to managing the costs, to lower the cost in the energy consumption. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's say there's a car company in Stuttgart with the star as a logo. No, but that would be great, right? No. So let's say there's an industrial site in Stuttgart. They have a 10 megawatt grid connection, just for sake of our minds. Let's say 10 megawatt of grid connection, and in the morning they need this 10 megawatts of power to start a machine that turns all day, that just spins. And in the morning, to start this machine, you need all 10 megawatt, a lot of power, like when you want to push something to get it rolling. But once this is spinning, you actually just need 1 megawatt to keep it spinning. So in the morning, they shortly use all of the cable, this 10 megawatt. And then in the evening or during the day, they just have 1. So there's 9 megawatt free. We build our storage. We pay them a rent for using their grid connection. So these free 9 megawatt. So they get money for doing nothing, without any risk, without any investment. They just get paid to help us stabilize the power grid, which also benefits them. If they want to use the storage, for example, for charging energy at noon and using it later in the evening to slow down their machine again, for example, they can also do that. So there's some on-top products they can get from us.
And you've been working very closely with the industrial side of the industry. Do you think your solution can be also adapted in the future for private customers, or is the focus here really for the huge industry with a lot of energy consumption?
I think for us as a company, I don't see the B2C side, but I think there's this application, this idea of the VPP of this virtual power plant into private households. That's definitely something that's being done by some companies, and where there's very good players in Austria, but as well in Germany. For us, we are not in the private household sector.
Have you actually contacted the farmer to work with him again?
Actually, no, unfortunately. I know them still, but we haven't been in touch for a while. But that would be in the private household size.
Okay,
but,
so not as much energy consumption.
No, unfortunately, it's crazy. Once you get into these technicalities, how to understand the scope of what potential we have at industrial sites compared to private households. There's a lot more private households than industrial sites, but the speed with which you can use B2B grid connections to help us all and stabilize the power grid is much faster than in private households.
Crazy. So it's like the 80-20 Pareto principle, where there's not as much industry companies for let's say private households, but still they are the main energy consumers in the world. Yeah. Exactly,
and that's actually a very great description. I haven't thought about that. I will implement that into my pitch. But no, it's really it's most of the grid connection power, so of this installed capacity we have, is with industrials and is with large consumers similar to industrials. So that's where we think it makes sense to start building something scalable.
It's amazing. And how have you built your company? Because now we're talking about the end product, what you're developing. You have already raised 2 huge financial rounds. But explain to us, how did it all started? Because a few years ago, you were still studying at the university. You were taking part at different competitions, and yeah, you were a student, and now you're here sitting as such a successful person. Tell us more about the journey.
I am not sure about that, right? I mean, I appreciate the words, but I was still very, very at the beginning of what we're trying to do.
But still, at such a young age, man.
Thank you. No, I mean, so of course we've had some success, especially with the fundraising and of course deploying our first projects. Now we have a pipeline of 900 megawatts, which is a great project pipeline, and we're going to be close to a gigawatt soon. So that's really amazing on the progress side. But there's also still a lot we need to achieve. And personally, I feel like I'm learning so much, luckily, every day, that it really feels like the beginning. And I'm very aware that I and we as an organization don't know everything in this complex market. But I think we, even with that little background knowledge, built something really great and impressive so far. And I hope that we can continue doing that. And to get back to your actual question, I think the start when we did the business case challenge, or when I did the business case challenge, it was about a different topic, right? It wasn't about energy. And that was actually in the second to last semester of BBE. And it was with this company, Montana Tech, that sponsored the BCC. And they were looking for a business case for some aerospace idea they had with their subsidiary Montana Aerospace. And I won the business case challenge together with 2 friends and applied, I think, 20 times. I think I sent them so many reminders that I really would like to work in Montana Tech, so this industrial company, because I knew if I got in there, I will learn the financial set that I need to found something on my own in the infrastructure area. So I applied. Yeah, and then I got in. I worked there for 1.5 years and with great colleagues, with a great leader, and we basically did all the things on the financial structuring side for this aerospace company. That are important now to me in structuring the energy storage infrastructure investments. So doing that for 1.5 years was super exciting, was a really great time. But I also knew I felt it's going really great, but I want personally to do something with more impact, or with something that's actually my passion, and it's not airplanes, unfortunately. But I think coming from that set of having learned something in the real estate area, having learned something in the financial structuring, M&A business, I felt ready to actually quit and try and start something on my own. And you know how it is, right? This is like a train that starts to move. And when it starts to move, are you on the inside? Or are you on the train station? And in your gut feeling, once the train has started, you can't stop it. So
it's a beautiful description.
Right? For me, it was. I mean, I have to say, it's not my original description. I picked it up from somewhere, but someone told me that actually when I started, and I think it's really true. You have this idea, and then am I in the train and then there's no getting out? Or is it like the next train I'm going to take with this idea? And I mean, it took me 6 months while at Montana still to figure out, do I want to quit and do I want to go on my own?
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, it's really a process. And I listened to some of the previous guests here, and I feel like it's similar, this part for many founders. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think you have to get ready for it. And what I like about the WU that it gives you a lot of possibilities to actually found. Like for example, the WU Gründungszentrum is also doing a lot for the startups. I was actually in the first part of the startup league. Which was back then
so we're in the startup of the startup league, actually in the first first batch. Yeah,
cool. And it was a crazy journey, but it was I knew that I want to be a founder one day. I had a promise that I don't want to become like working at a internship. I just want to found a company and do my own thing. But it was scary. I still remember the day where I go to the bank and put all the money into the bank account, and you just founding company. It's like, Jesus Christ! Now there is really no going back.
Yeah, then that's the commitment, right? At some point, that's impressive. I mean, especially knowing that also so early on, right? And then putting up the commitment. I think that's something that's really underestimated sometimes by or even I underestimated before going in to founding. And you have this idea of what you want to do, and it changes anyways.
Yeah, it changes so many times.
But when you go in, even though everybody tells you it's gonna change, you think, yeah, of course.
How difficult can it be?
How difficult? How much can it change? And it really changes a lot, right? So yeah, but I think what you're saying is, this commitment of putting up the money or raising the money or like going like all in with your mind. That's really what's the step you need to jump over and do.
And how has your life changed afterwards?
Fully, completely, because
you found it in Vienna or in Berlin?
I found it. So I quit my job end of 2022. I spent most of my life in Vienna. I didn't do exchange semesters or something. I did one summer school in London and some traveling, but really I spent most of the time in Vienna. So I felt like I need a break to actually decide, is this the right thing? So I traveled to Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Brazil for 3.5 months. So I did this traveling, and I really would recommend it to everybody that's thinking about founding to have this break, because then you even are more, if you can do it, of course, but then you're really more aware of what you want to do next. And then I came back to Vienna, and I had this idea, which was back then a bit different. So we wanted to do pumped hydropower plants. I think if I get into that, it's too complicated, but we wanted to do something completely different from battery storage at industrial sites. I wanted to build pumped hydropower stations, so where you store energy by pumping water up a hill and have it flow down again.
Okay, it was super interesting.
And I did that in Vienna for 6 months. I got into some program from the Gründungs from the Wirtschaftsagentur. Unfortunately, I had to quit that program then because I got into an accelerator in Berlin, where you also have the chance to get an investment.
Okay.
So I said, okay, Wirtschaftsagentur Wien, that's really a great program. Also would recommend it to everybody that's in Vienna and founds here. But I actually then went to Antler in Berlin, and during this 12-week accelerator, I think, in Berlin, where I only went because there is no program in Vienna where you can go for 12 weeks and then get 100,000 if they approve your idea. There's business angels and some things like that, but there's not this structured program. I think WU has now Ignite Ventures, right?
Yeah, it just started out.
So that's something in that direction. So I think that's really important. But in 2023, I didn't find anything similar, and that's why I went to Berlin. During this accelerator, the whole idea changed. They realized pumped hydropower plants are really hard to build. And that's when I thought about, okay, I'm passionate about the problem, and the solution I have right now is not right. Mm-hmm. So what would still solve the problem, but be a better solution? And I pitched that. And 2 days before Christmas 2023 is a really nice story.
Yeah,
I actually
birthday.
got, yeah?
22nd December.
Yeah, okay. So on your birthday, I got the investment confirmation from Antler
Wow,
that they're going to
congratulations.
invest into Scale Energy. And that was really important because, as I said, I'm not from a background with a lot of money. I used up basically all my savings and more in that 12 months after quitting from Montana. And it was really a really stressful time, and really, if you have financial worries while you found, that's I think the worst combination you can have. Ideally, you have some space to rest on, but yeah, I luckily got the investment just in
not
time.
luckily, those were a lot of skills, a lot of hard work and dedication.
Yeah. No, it was really hard work actually, but luckily they confirmed before Christmas, because going into Christmas and New Year's 2023 without knowing, okay, what's the next step gonna be, you also question yourself, right? You question, am I the right person to found? Am I too early? Should I take a job again for a year and then try it again? And for me, that was really important to, at this point, get the investment confirmation and be able to start with 150K, because we got an angel then on board as well, in a convertible loan. Yeah.
And have you moved into Berlin, or were you already living in Berlin back then?
I moved to Berlin for this accelerator. So
you already had in mind, I will probably stay there.
Yeah, and then when I got the investment there, it was clear that I'm going to stay in Berlin, because I also saw the differences in the investment landscape.
So what can we as Austria learn from Germany?
Some things and some things not at all, right? As an Austrian, I have to say that. But I think what's really advanced in Berlin, at least, is the VC landscape. And I think on the investing side, we can be more bold on some of the business angels, but also in the VC landscape, we can be more bold to invest in Austrian companies that want to do something internationally, even if it's just Austria and Germany. Because what I heard a lot is, okay, if you start, you should first just focus on Austria and then go into Germany. But for some ideas, you need this large market already.
Yeah, I totally agree. We
Yeah.
once had such an interesting meeting because our main mission was to expand to the US, because it is the main market for art. And I remember we had an expert who told us, okay, but when you apply for grants or anything for also Austrian investors, don't mention that you want to go to the US. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because they will probably be afraid that they will lose on the taxes in Austria. I was like, okay, but...
Yeah. No, it's crazy, right? I mean, Austria is a great country, but it's a small country. It's 8 million people. And sometimes when you're in Austria, you tend to forget that easily. But something like this is just very impressive, because I think that needs to be resembled on the investor landscape as well. That it's good if there's an Austrian company that wants to be global, ideally, or international in Europe. And that's something I think that should change. And there's some successful startups that show how this is possible in Austria, right?
Yeah.
But taking from Germany is really that, a bit more appreciation for international rollout. And I mean, Germany is not also not where it could be. All of Europe.
Yeah.
But I think that's something where we as Austria have a history in hidden champions, right? That internationalize and globalize their business. And with startups, we should not forget that some of the most successful Austrian SMEs are those who went global.
Yeah.
And why should we forget that now for startups?
Yeah, I once heard a very interesting description why the Austrian market is actually so difficult for startups. It is a pro and con argument because Austrian people tend to be very loyal to products, to solutions. So when you once build a very good network with your customers, you have mostly very loyal customers for the long future. But on the other side, for startups, it's super difficult to build this customer base because those people are mostly already committed to a company or to a solution, which is why Austria sometimes is difficult for startups to start off.
Yeah.
And there's also a very funny saying, if you want to be successful in Austria, you have to be once successful somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, that's why do you think did we go to Berlin? No, that's jokes aside. But actually, I mean, yeah, I agree, right? I think what we as Austria have is sometimes a really fascination for something that comes from abroad, and like we like to outsource this proof of concept or this early trial phase sometimes, and then when we see it's working, then we implement it. But that of course gives away a lot of value, and I mean, yeah, that's just I don't know, it's in a bit rooted in the culture, but it's also of course a benefit once you're in, and then you have a really loyal, great customer base that you also can innovate with on the product, right?
I agree. Yeah. And do you ever feel the pressure to be visionary, to come up with new solutions? And because you told me about the train, when it starts going, you like have to go on the train, and when you're once on the train, are you a person who thinks a lot? What's the next step, or how was your personal journey with being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, every day, I think. Of course, not every day I get to do it. Actually, you have to fight to be able to think about that, because typically you get overwhelmed with day-to-day activities, right?
Yeah.
So you actually have to defend your calendar against meetings and and I mean, it's a really creative job, right? And creatives, they I mean, you're working a lot with artists or with the art world.
Yeah.
So actually, I think need to make space for these creative phases where you can think about these tech developments you should implement, or where you think about product innovation in general. Yeah. So I feel the pressure to do that, of course, but I think actually, let me reframe, it's not the pressure to do that, it's actually the pressure of not doing it as much as I want to do. So that's something you really need to balance. So how much do you want to work on the product, on the vision, on tech?
And are you able to switch off your mind, let's say on a weekend or on a vacation, or is it still difficult for you?
It takes a few days, yeah. So, and even then, I mean, you're never fully off, or hardly. There's some times where, with family, with my girlfriend, with friends, I get to turn off completely. But I mean, you know how it is, right? You're constantly there's some base mental load from this company you always take with you. And
on top, you always try, when you had, for example, a busy day, you had to work like busy schedule until 8 p.m. You still want to pursue something more when it comes to the creative side, to how can I develop it further on. So then you're sitting in front of the sheet or in front of the PC, and then you're like, oh Jesus, it's midnight, I have to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Because that's something where I think about regularly. Is that right, or is that like, because did I just flood my whole day with day-to-day activities, and that's why now in the evening I need to like forgive or forgo on sleep to actually have this creative product development? Or do I like just now have these thoughts? And I mean, I think probably there should be like a fixed time in my calendar in the morning or something where I do this product development, because it's actually a super important thing, right? It shouldn't come last after the day-to-day, but first. But it's of course not always possible.
And your recommendation to new founders, how to do it better from the get-go?
I mean, I really don't know everything, right? I know very little.
It's a process.
But from my learnings, I mean, so find a great team, right? It doesn't like there's people that found very successfully alone. There's people that found with co-founders. But for me, I knew that I want to find amazing co-founders, and I'm very happy to have found them. So Nico and Chris, I hope they listen to this. They know. I mean, we are really how do you say, eingespielt, like a well connected, functioning team, where we also became friends. And that's, I think, the basis, right? And to have this mentality of teamwork, and even if it's with your first employees, if you're founding alone or whatever, to have the feeling of a community, of a movement more than just the business side, to foster that, and then in that team to look for diversity in backgrounds, in thoughts, and yeah, I think that's a good basis. What helped us. And what would I not do? So that's a positive thing. I mean, a negative thing. It's easy to say that, and there's people that told me during the process, but just to actually stop from time to time and not take things too serious, because nobody takes it as serious as you, and of course you have to take it serious, but you need to realize, even if it's not working out, there's a million other things you can do, or where you can try again, or where you in hard times have to just pause and take a step back, and that sometimes unlocks even more value. For me, it was that when I pivoted from this pumped hydro idea to battery storage, where I had 10 days of not knowing what's going to be next. And that was actually a super valuable phase where I grew super fast personally, I feel.
And have you had your co-founders back then already, or was it really a personal journey?
That was my personal journey. So from this, like starting going full time for 9 months, moving to Berlin, and in parallel, Nico, one of my co-founders who has also the technical background, who worked at solar company Enpal, so this huge scale up, and where he led or worked and managed operations, so he also left there towards end of the year 2023, and then we got introduced, and together with Chris, who I know since elementary school, who also came to Berlin to test this out, we formed what Scale Energy is today, right? So the initial idea, the spark that came from my side because of my passion for energy, but we all share that, and really I think from ground up, really from zero, built the company, the three of us, and together. Yeah,
that's wonderful. And if you could go back in time now, what would you whisper to your younger self studying at the university?
So younger, but not too young. So studying at university already in the first
year or something. You can also go very, very back to the past.
I mean, back then I don't know. I'm probably I don't know. I mean, I had the luck to actually have a pretty happy childhood, even though it wasn't always easy. I think, like, as a university student, I would probably, I mean, it's the same thing I said right before, about just taking a step back, because I always worked next to university. I mean, I also had to work to finance like everything, and finance my studies, not everything, unfortunately. just to also enjoy life a bit, just not take things too serious. Spend time with your friends actively, like even if you're not feeling too social. On a day when you worked all week, that's when you have to push yourself to do something social outside of work, even if you just want to stay at home, because that's super important and that gives you more energy when you get over this hurdle. And for me, that was sometimes already during university, where I had uni, where I then worked, and then you have, almost no time for yourself already, and then you are still supposed to meet friends. But that's actually something that's super important.
How much sleep do you get in actually?
I try to get an 8 hours, and I think I get typically 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah, similar as well.
Yeah.
But there's such a funny thing. I had a friend of mine who was always sleeping 11 to 12 hours all the time, and he was so sure about it that every person needs at least 8 to 10 hours to function properly. Then he became a founder.
and then that idea changed.
Everything is changed, and now he's also 6 hours. 6 hours is enough.
That's how you adapt reality, right? When
it's probably a lie we are telling ourselves to function properly, but
So you get a 6 hours also, or 6, 7?
I try also 7 to 8, but most of the time it's effective like 6 hours because I always track it. But
and then you try to get 8 hours, then you don't fall asleep. I think, a friend recommended me the melatonin spray, right? This sleeping hormone. You have to not overuse it, but it helps also to fall asleep fast, right?
Okay.
And I think, foregoing on sleep is the worst thing you can do long term, right? So that's why I'm trying to actually get that 8 in, but you work a lot, then you wanna still do sports or cook something healthy, and then you're already in that 8 hours, because that's hard to manage.
Yeah, I totally agree. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Building Scale Energy, hopefully to actually become a European company. Ideally even global. I would really, really like if we can manage to get our technology or if we become an energy technology company more and more, with a solution for industrial sites across the globe on energy management, energy optimization. So coming from that go-to-market of building decentralized batteries as servers for the future of a power grid, so decentralized servers, to more a tech layer. And this is something I want to pursue in the next 5, 10, ideally longer years. And personally, I would like to be able to travel a bit. That's also why being a European or international company would be great. I would like to learn more about new cultures and, most importantly, meet amazing people and have great talks like right now.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, what legacy would you like to leave behind?
That's a really big question. And I'm aware that we're probably a bit young still, hopefully, to think about legacy. But I think what really matters to me is to be kind to people, right? That's something you can do easily across your entire life, and already you have a great legacy, because if you are kind to people, you don't have to be nice to everybody, but kind in your heart, then you will already have made such a great impact to people's lives with actions you don't even know about, just by being nice or kind.
But honestly, the first time you walked in and I met you, you radiated such a positive aura. It's really something. It's so authentic. it seems like there's like no hidden barrier. It's like you're just a super friendly and
Thank you.
Good human being.
I can only give that back to you, and I think that's what's really great. If you meet people and you see that they're kind, right? Like for me, the most important mentors or people that inspired me were people that even if they're super successful are like asking, how can I help you? Yeah. What do you need from me? And even though I'm not super successful, or we are trying to become super successful in the energy space, I think something everybody can do, and what builds a legacy anyways, no matter how successful you are economically or on the personal side. If you're kind to people, you will have a great impact on people's life. And that's the most important thing. And then, of course, making the world a better place, which is partly done by being kind, but also by changing real problems into something that rather that is solved. So, like, I mean, we have a problem with the climate. We should do something about it. Working towards that, that's important to me. We have a problem in Europe with resources, and circularity is a super big topic. And yeah, I think there's some big problems we need to think about as all of humanity. And in Austria, especially right now, right? And in Austria, we shouldn't be just solving Austria's problems, but I also be bold and think about what can we do on a global scale, ideally. And you already also made this step, right, with thinking about United States.
I mean, we have like artists from over from 4 countries already under contract, and also customers in the US. But yeah, it was also a journey, step by step, and
yeah, it's
a process.
It's not easy.
No, it's not, and I think entrepreneurship shouldn't be also treated as easy. And I think most entrepreneurs that decide to go that journey, they know that it won't be easy.
That's true. Yeah. Or at least you hear about it, and then you go in, and then you realize how not easy it is.
But would you change it for anything in the world?
No. I think really important family, friends, private life. And then, of course, you have to, I think there's these 3 things, right? Yourself, then friends, family, partner, and company. That's the 3 components. And to be successful with the company, it doesn't always work, but to be successful with the company, you need to be balanced in with yourself and with your friends and your partner to actually have the most impact in the company side. And if you always prioritize the company and deprioritize family and friends and your personal life, or if you have too much of a disbalance between the 3, I think you will run into a period where you have to adapt something, and to have this balance. It's like with the power grid; it always needs perfect balance to not have a blackout.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, a good metaphor for how we should try to be as entrepreneurs and try to find that balance in the different aspects of life.
It seems you have learned a lot about yourself by being an entrepreneur. And there was one, I love it. I love the quote. It's entrepreneurship is personal development on adrenaline, because you have to learn so much about yourself in such a short time, and it really pushes forward who you are as a person, and it's crazy actually.
Yeah, totally. It's the fastest you can learn, right?
Yeah.
Or for me, I think it's being an entrepreneur really forces you to learn 1,000 new things in a super short
time. Also
time.
About yourself. You know how you react when it's stressy. You know how to react as you learning more about yourself, how you react in those situations.
Exactly. You can observe yourself in a lot of different situations in a very fast period of time, and that's an exciting journey.
Yeah, and thank you very much for being my guest today. I wish you all the best for your future journey. You are a very reflected person, and I'm sure that we will hear once again at this podcast, probably expanding to the whole Europe or to the US. And yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate the talk and questions. It was really a very great experience, and looking forward to staying in touch, to hearing about, maybe you get some feedback from the listeners. And I mean, yeah, we are at day one, but I hope that some of the learnings I had with Scale Energy can be helpful to some of the listeners.
I'm sure it will. Thank you very much, and
Thank
wish you
you.
all the best.
Thanks.